Before we begin, I just want to give a quick special shout out to the patrons in the $10 and above tier. We have Wilma, Glad Goku, Dare Denny, Kale Bennett, Kenke of Warheads has balloons to inflate, but I can't find any helium anywhere, Hypermecha SP, Sirius the Skeptic, Biotin. Oh no, I've used up all of the helium. What am I meant to do now? Thank you. Hi, what's up? I'm Channel Pup, the mascot for the level-headed fanboy. Welcome to a video that you're going to watch the once and never again that will be rendered completely useless once we actually get a trailer. So I guess I'll enjoy the 2 weeks tops engagement that I get from this video. Shadow has been cast for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. As well as that, we have a little description of the CinemaCon trailer that I figured I'd also discuss about in this video. Because otherwise, what is the video? Keanu Reeves has been cast as Shadow. Hooray! That's the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the Patreon up, donate to the Ko-Fi. Just hand me your little wallet and I will just rinse it into the sink. I'm serious about this though, I accept money. So I never really gave my thoughts on who I thought should play Shadow the Hedgehog. Naturally, I would have been happy with any of the Shadow voice actors that we've had thus far in the games. Same goes for the dude from Sonic Prime. I thought he did a great job too. I will always be happiest if they do get the game voice actors in. It legitimizes the experience, but obviously that wasn't going to happen. Shadow is the key selling point for this film, so naturally they were going to get a big name celebrity in there. Tails was the rare example of them not getting a big celebrity in the role, and I think they would have done had it not been for the fact that they had cast Colleen O'Shaughnessy just for the post-credits of the first Sonic movie, and she was received so well there that it was okay, let's keep her on as Tails. However, Knuckles was the big promotional vehicle of that second movie, the whole Sonic v Knuckles dynamic, and Knuckles was played by Idris Elbert, obviously. I don't think we're going to have another instance like Colleen O'Shaughnessy being cast as Tails for these movies again. The stars just really aligned for that one. And to no surprise, yeah, they cast a big-name actor as Shadow the Hedgehog. Now, there were a lot of rumors. I think the top 3 most likely choices were Hayden Christensen, Robert Pattinson, or Keanu Reeves. Now, my favorite choice of these 3 most likely candidates was Hayden Christensen. Over the years in the games and the shows, Shadow's voice has definitely evolved from that sort of very youthful David Humphrey sound where he almost kind of sounds like a preppy boarding school kid, to Jason Griffith's more gruff performance, to Kirk Thornton's even more gruff performance. And I think I saw Hayden Christensen as an opportunity to kind of go back to the more David Humphrey sound. Listening to Hayden Christensen as Anakin in the Star Wars prequels, and I know that was so long ago, and these are not the roles that necessarily going to define him, he did sound a lot like the David Humphrey Shadow, and I could buy this guy as someone who's lived his life in isolation, in space, away from other living beings. Hayden Christensen is a great actor, and to be honest, I thought he was very good in the Star Wars prequels as well. I think people just didn't really see the vision. Revenge of the Sith, best Star Wars movie, Hayden's performance in it is fantastic. So he absolutely would have been my top choice. And yeah, I am basically saying this because I think he would evoke a Humphrey sound. And then when we move over to my second choice, Robert Pattinson, it's because he's got a very Jason Griffith kind of sound. These would be very archetypal Shadow castings. Robert Pattinson, though, I feel it goes without saying. If you've ever seen The Batman, you can see him as Shadow, basically. Gruff yet soft-spoken and whispery, that's basically just Shadow the Hedgehog to a T, really. As for Keanu Reeves, I think Keanu Reeves is a great actor, but for a while I was saying I think he's a mid-choice compared to Hayden Christensen and Robert Pattinson. He's someone that can play the role, no doubt, but not someone I'd be anywhere near as excited about when compared to Hayden Christensen or Robert Pattinson. I figured if he got chosen over those two, if they were in the running in the first place, it would be down to namesake because he is probably the biggest star of the 3. Well, lo and behold, it ended up being Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves is the new Shadow for Sonic Movie 3, as far as we understand right now. It was first revealed by John Campea over on his show, and then, the news outlets kind of picked this up. The Hollywood Reporter is now reporting on it, so it makes a lot of sense. As of right now, it does appear to be the case that our new Shadow is Keanu Reeves. And I'm not bummed out about that. I'm more bummed out that we won't get to hear Hayden Christensen as Shadow. Keanu Reeves is one where I'm he can play the role, no doubt. But I think the other two would have been perfect for the role. At the same time, though, I am also more familiar with those other actors. I am more familiar with Robert Pattinson through The Batman and admittedly Twilight as well. I did see those films. I am more familiar with Hayden Christensen because naturally the Star Wars prequels. My real familiarity with Keanu Reeves would come from Toy Story 4. However, I have done lots of research since the announcement of the casting, wanted to kind of get a vibe for what we can expect Keanu's shadow to sound like. I know that he played Batman in DC League of Super Pets, which I haven't seen, but I have seen clips of. I know that he is John Wick, which is a very kind of shadow-adjacent role anyways. And I've been told that his performance as Johnny Silverhand in Cyberpunk is probably the best basis for what his shadow might sound like. So I have naturally looked up some clips of him as Johnny Silverhand in Cyberpunk. I do own Cyberpunk, I just haven't got that far into it. And I think, again, he doesn't sound like any shadow we've had so far. He doesn't sound like David Humphrey, or Kirk Thornton, or Jason Griffith, or Ian Hanlon, but I do think he can sound like Shadow the Hedgehog. For one, I do think that Keanu Reeves does put a little more into his voice acting performances than a lot of other big-name actors. He's not just going to necessarily sound like Keanu Reeves playing Keanu Reeves. I do have every faith that he will play Shadow the Hedgehog. But I mean, let's take a look at our other, big-name voice casts in these Sonic movies. For example, Idris Elbert as Knuckles does not sound like any Knuckles we've ever had in the games or any other media. But he works. He sounds good. I dare say Idris Elba is probably one of my favorite Knuckles voices, the closest to how I always imagine Knuckles sounding anyways. I didn't love Idris Elba as Knuckles because he sounded like the other Knuckles actors, or because he channeled the sound of other Knuckles actors. I loved Idris Elba as Knuckles because I just love that version of Knuckles. I think he fits that ignorant warrior with a heart of gold. Where Sega's Knuckles tends to channel more him as a very boyish rival to Sonic. Kind of like a frat boy meathead type. So the big difference with Keanu is that he sounds more genuinely gruff than your typical Shadow, from what I've seen. What I mean by this is when I listen to the performances of the other Shadows that we've had, David Humphrey, Jason Griffith, Ian Hanlon, and Kirk Thornton. Yes, they're gruff, they're whispery, they got these deep little voices, but Shadow always sounds like a diminutive little man. Like he's putting on this, I'm so badass, I got a deep voice shtick. Kind of a little more akin to Will Arnett's Batman, where you can tell it's not really who he is underneath. With Keanu Reeves' voice, though, as Johnny Silverhand or John Wick, I don't hear a diminutive little man playing badass. I hear a genuinely gruff and gravelly sounding guy. Nothing about Keanu's deep voice sounds put on for show at all. Put it this way, can I imagine Hayden Christensen or Robert Pattinson going, I'm the coolest? Yeah, easily. Can I imagine Keanu saying that? Nah. Now, I do realize that a lot of my own projections are kind of informing this. Shadow going, I'm the coolest, was never intended to be evocative of any kind of character trait. It was probably just a bit of rubbish translation or just the writing team being a bit toilet brain. That's the thing, the writing over the years in the games has kind of informed my overall view that Shadow is a little bit of a dork deep down. His idea of being this morally gray anti-hero is to be like, this is going to be like taking candy from a baby, which is fine by me. And the chances are, as much as I would love the movies to at least acknowledge that kind of stuff, they're probably not going to do that. Because all of these characters have seen some changes in these movies, especially Sonic, for example, who is no longer just effortlessly confident, cocky, free as the wind. He's got a little bit more going on below the surface. Stuff that makes him, in my opinion, a much richer character. I get the sense that with Shadow, they're not going to just carry along all the ironically funny shit from the games. They're probably going to make him just the best character he can be and someone that can actually be taken seriously, and Keanu Reeves is probably going to play that. That said, though, as well, Keanu Reeves' very, very gruffer than any of the other Shadows sounding voice is probably going to be quite funny coming out of that diminutive little man that Shadow the Hedgehog is. Put it this way, though, if I close my eyes and I just picture it, I've already seen Robert Pattinson as Shadow, or I've already seen Hayden Christensen as Shadow. Those are performances that I can easily imagine. With Keanu, we're in for maybe a little more of a surprise, which I am looking forward to. I might have sounded a bit negative in this video, and it is just because I did have my heart set on other casting choices already, which is, I know, a dangerous game to play. Don't do that, and don't let that influence your opinion on who the official casting is. I think we're going to see a lot of this, though, with Sonic 3. Like, for example, like, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm so excited to see the death of Marie Robotnik, I'm so excited to see the space colony arc, this, that, and the other, and I'd love to see that stuff. However, it's worth noting, the previous movie was an adaptation of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. It did not have the Death Egg, it did not have the Sky Sanctuary, it did not have Angel Island, and it did not have Hyperforms. It was a loose adaptation of the story of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and the chances are, this one here is going to be a very loose adaptation of Sonic Adventure 2. But it's not necessarily going to be doing everything that game's story did. And I think a lot of us are kind of, myself included, already projecting what we want out of this movie onto this movie. A lot of us are kind of already assuming this is going to be the Sonic Adventure 2 movie. And I can also kind of see why, because we did get that title reveal thing where it's using the Sonic Adventure 2 logo and it's using Live and Learn. They are kind of tickling that pickle. But being realistic, I don't think they're necessarily going to give us the most faithful adaptation ever, even down to the fact that we don't even know if Rouge the Bat and Amy are going to be in this movie. Which I think they absolutely should be, not just because that's Sonic Adventure 2, but I think Rouge is very good for the character of Shadow. He's this loner, he's very isolated, and Rouge is kind of the one person he learns to trust. I think that complements his character really well. Not to mention, you've already kind of got the setup for that. GUN are already established. They were hunting down Sonic the Hedgehog because he's an alien on their world, and it would be so ironic and so on form for them to have just their own alien in their ranks that works for them, being Rouge the Bat. Amy being someone who is a little bit more sensitive than Sonic and his pals. Someone who wears her heart on her sleeve, being the one to finally get through to Shadow, not by homing attacking him a bunch of times, but by just appealing to his human side. That's a great bit of storytelling, and it would be an absolute shame to omit that, so it would be a shame to omit Amy Rose. I'm not just saying I want this to be like Sonic Adventure 2, I'm saying I want this to kind of understand what made the story of Sonic Adventure 2 so great. Not to mention, 3 movies in, you've gotta have Amy. She'd play so well off of the rest of the cast, and I feel like you've already got an inbuilt reason for her to be there. Maybe under similar circumstances to Sonic, she came to Earth as a little girl. But unlike Sonic, there was no Donut Lord there for her. So she's made it this far without any kind of connection, without any kind of affection, which is why as soon as she meets Sonic, she is just absolutely bursting with affection towards him. And while Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles are used to fighting their way out of their problems, she could be the one to be like, hold it boys, let's talk to Shadow. It would even be fun to just have it like, you know, they're running into battle, so she just picks up a mallet from like a work shed, and is just like, I guess I'll need this then. I don't think the film has to be a Sonic Adventure 2 adaptation, and truth be told, I don't think it has to even include Rouge and Amy, but I think it would absolutely benefit from it, because the plot beats of Amy's compassion being the thing to get through to Shadow, Rouge being the one person he kind of confides in, these are great story beats to have. I know a lot of people also have their doubts about Rouge being in this movie simply down to her design. She is far too sexy for a family film. But Rouge was a pretty major character in the Needle Mouse Prime House. They simply gave her more clothing. It's like, yeah, it's that simple. That, and in today's world, you really want to go 3 whole movies without having a girl Sonic in it? It's gonna get political whether you like it or not. Plus, it'll be really funny to see BigotTube claim that Sonic has gone woke because there's a girl hedgehog in it, especially after they championed the first Sonic movie against Birds of Prey. What a surreal time to be alive. Alright, moving on, let's talk about the trailer that was revealed at CinemaCon. Because the most talked about thing in this trailer surprisingly wasn't Shadow. It was Jim Carrey's Dr. Robotnik, because they're doing some interesting things with Robotnik. It seems like he was quite a focus of this trailer at CinemaCon. So Robotnik is back. Obviously, we knew that Jim Carrey was coming back. But he's really let himself go. He's been binging carbohydrates, as Robotnik says in the trailer. His lab is a mess. He's gained a significant amount of weight, and he's got long bedraggled hair now. Suggesting that maybe after the failure of his plan in the second film, he's probably just let himself go. Maybe he's given up. Which which is similar to what the story of Sonic Mania was supposed to be, but not at all communicated to be. Sounds like a good setup for the hard-boiled heavies, but who the hell cares about the hard-boiled heavies? This is a Shadow movie. Agent Stone reveals to Robotnik that he's found Sonic, and Robotnik springs back into action with a new scheme, and Stone gives him a haircut, restoring his bald appearance, and he is the most game-accurate Eggman yet, supposedly. Because, yeah, we've now got Jim Carrey in a fat suit, but he's got that Robotnik look that he had in the second film as well, with the big mustache and bald head. The description says he's got depraved-looking eyes, which makes me wonder what that actually means. Is he really just not going to get his little specs? I've also heard some sources say that he's getting a classic Robotnik look, but it makes me wonder what they mean by classic Robotnik look, whether they mean classic as in like game Robotnik, or whether they mean classic as in like classic Robotnik, which was teased in the second Sonic movie. But I'll be honest, I can't see him running around in that. At the same time, I suppose it make a little sense, given that he was basically wearing the modern Robotnik outfit with the zippers and clasps in the second movie, so for the third maybe ape another game look. What if it's the Pingus version? And that's what they mean by depraved eyes, he's got those inverted red eyes. I reckon we could expect something akin to maybe the Sonic 06 Eggman outfit. Honestly, I've always felt Robotnik was the one who benefit the most from the modern redesigns, because, I mean, look at classic Robotnik here. You gotta take his word for it that he's a villain. You know, this could be a guy working at Santa's workshop for all we know. So then Robotnik and henchmen, not sure if they're robotic or not, wake up Shadow in the cryotube. It then cuts to a confrontation in the middle of a city between Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Shadow. Given that Knuckles is in attendance for this showdown, I would imagine that maybe Rouge isn't actually in this movie, because at this point in Sonic Adventure 2, Knuckles would probably be having a little spat with Rouge in the desert. Knuckles makes a quip about how this hedgehog is a lot more powerful than the last one he faced, that one obviously being Sonic. And I'm wondering if this city is San Francisco, if that's where they're going with this. And then you got this big money shot of Sonic and Shadow pouncing at each other. I wonder if that's going to be some kind of replication of that iconic shot from Sonic Adventure 2. The trailer says it's like something straight out of an anime, but Shadow gets there by launching himself off of a motorcycle. Now, the writers did mention that this script was inspired by Sonic Adventure 2 and Shadow the Hedgehog, so it makes sense that we're seeing Shadow's motorcycle here. And that's awesome as well. I know that people clowned on Shadow having guns and motorcycles back in 2005. It just makes me so happy to see them not shying away from this. And then the final shot of the trailer is Sonic and Robotnik both looking grumpy in the middle of a street looking into a ring portal, implying that these two might just be working together. Which again, accurate to Sonic Adventure 2, they did team up in that game. That said, from the sounds of things, they ain't in space. I'm not hearing anything about Robotnik holding Amy at gunpoint. See what I'm doing? I'm projecting so much. This is not a good idea. I'm gonna love the movie, I'm sure. This all sounds really, really cool. And I'm hoping they'll release this footage for the public soon. Also, when you think about it, what a star-studded cast they have now. Keanu Reeves, Jim Carrey, Idris Elbert, all in one movie, that's big. Also, we do know that Maria Robotnik is in the movie, played by Alila Brown. It just depends if they're going to shoot her. I don't think they will. Maybe it'll happen off-screen. I hope Shadow gets a gun, but I'm pretty sure it'll be a laser gun, given that, again, family film and all that. I think the only person we've seen holding a real gun in these movies was Wade. Weird choice. But yeah, those are my thoughts on everything we know about Sonic 3 so far. What do you guys think? Comment below, discuss, and as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to support more like it, be sure to hit subscribe, hit the like button, and in the description below is the link to my Patreon page, where for as little as $1 a month, you can get your name in the credits of these videos, with a special shout out going to the patrons in the $5 and above tiers. They are RT0, Wilmer, Cal X, Richard Rogers, Glad Goku, Dare Denny, SSS06, Kale Bennett, Kenkei of Warheads has balloons to inflate, but I can't find any helium anywhere, Dazzle Fizzle, Hypermecha SP, Cirrus the Skeptic, Biotin, oh no, I've used up all the helium, what am I meant to do now? And Vera Wild. Thank you folks so much for your generosity, and to all of you at home, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Get out.